Now, there have been a lot of controversial figures in the sport of pro wrestling, like Bruiser Brody, John Cena, and Roman Reigns. But today I'm here to talk about one person in particular, and that is a young woman from Norwich called Saraya Jade Bevis, also known as Paige. Paige was born in Norwich, UK, to parents turned wrestlers Rowdy Ricky Knight, who spent 8 years in prison for violent crimes before turning into the world of pro wrestling, and Saraya Knight, also named Sweet Saraya, who also wrestles in the indie circuit in England. Paige, who was born into an all-wrestling family, was pushed to join the wrestling business, but she wanted nothing to do with the wrestling business, and she was adamant about that. Paige made her official debut at 13 when a wrestler no-showed an event that her parents had booked, and after her first match she quickly fell in love with the business of professional wrestling, and Paige started to wrestle all over England as well as all over the world. Paige also at a very young age had the freedom to travel by herself, so there were many times at a young age that Paige was just traveling all by herself. Paige was very independent, and she was a young woman at her age, but at one point in her life, Paige's mom had decided to just straight up leave the family due to so many pressures that were going on in her life, and for quite a while, Paige just couldn't find her mom, until not too long after she returned home. Paige continued to wrestle all over England as well as in her parents' wrestling company, World Association of Wrestling, where she quickly became one of its biggest stars along with her brother Zack Zodiac. Both would attract a lot of attention, and eventually they got the attention of WWE, who invited both of them to try out in 2011. Now, Paige had auditioned for WWE 1 year prior, but she didn't get in, and this was another chance for Paige to make it in the WWE. But this time, it would prove differently, as WWE would accept her and sign Paige to a WWE developmental deal. However, her brother would not get signed, which led to a little bit of resentment from Zack, as he had always wanted to be a pro wrestler, and Paige originally didn't want anything to do with the wrestling business. Paige then left her business to move to Orlando so she could be closer to NXT, where she would be working. And you could tell it was really hard for her to move away from everything that she had ever known and to be far away from all her family and her friends, which would be difficult for anyone. And she even thought of quitting several times, but her sacrifices would end up paying off, as she became one of the best female talents in NXT, even becoming the first ever NXT Women's Champion. The height of her career and her success would only reach higher as the night after WrestleMania 30, she would make her Monday Night Raw debut by beating AJ Lee to win the Divas Championship. Paige had made her way to WWE, and everyone was starting to notice, as WWE was slowly becoming Paige's house. And although she was part of the awful Divas revolution that was going on at the time, she was always someone that I and a lot of people had an eye on because she was still so very entertaining. However, Paige would come across some controversy in 2016 when she started dating Alberto Del Rio, who was a little bit shocking considering that he was 38 at the time and divorced and also had kids, and she was just 23. And some people were not fans of the pairing of the two, but I was a supporter of the couple because as long as they're happy, that's all that matters. However, the pairing in WWE wouldn't last long as the brand split was brought back and Paige was drafted to Raw and Alberto Del Rio was drafted to SmackDown, showing that WWE also was not a fan of the pairing either. Paige was then suspended from WWE for violating the wellness policy, but she was also out with a neck injury that she needed surgery for. However, she was suspended once again for 60 days for violating the wellness policy again. It was also at this time where she stopped wrestling altogether as she was healing from her injured neck. Alberto Del Rio had also left WWE not too long after this, so Paige ended up spending a lot of time with Del Rio. But this would bring Paige some unwanted attention, as Del Rio would take any opportunity to bash WWE. Paige was also someone who wanted to come back to WWE, and she made that public, but Del Rio wasn't making it easier for her. Not much later, the mother of all controversies would hit Paige when private photos and her sex tape were released. It was all over the wrestling landscape that these were out there, and I, as well as everyone, thought that her career in WWE was over, because there was no way that she could return to WWE, which was a PG company, after she got rated R with Xavier Woods. Things were at an all-time low for Paige, and she said that she had even considered killing herself because of how much this was affecting her. It was also implied that Del Rio was becoming more and more abusive, as there were pictures of Paige looking skinnier than usual and in an unhealthy way. Not too long after this, she ended her relationship with Del Rio, which honestly is better for the both of them, especially with Paige, as she's had a past of dating men that treated her badly. Paige was also still facing backlash after her sex tape had been leaked. And there's a story of one drunk asshole who told Paige that, and I quote, "That is the porn star that I jacked off to." Which is honestly just a cruel thing to say. And if I can give advice to anyone who's angry at the world, or just angry in general, it's don't be an asshole all of your life. Months and months would pass until it was finally revealed that Dwayne Johnson would be making a biopic on Paige's life called Fighting With My Family. And shortly afterwards, something happened that I thought I would never ever see. Paige would return to WWE on November 20th, 2017, interrupting a match between Sasha Banks and Mickie James. But she wouldn't return alone, as she would be with the debuting Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. The trio would be called Absolution. As Paige returned, we would be seeing some of the best dream matches, like Paige vs. Sasha Banks, or Paige vs. Alexa Bliss. There were so many dream matches that were on the table, and also at this time, WWE had announced its first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, and Paige had been very adamant that she wanted to be a part of it and win the whole entire thing. And although that probably wasn't going to happen, she was still happy that she was going to be a part of it. Paige was riding high when she returned. The fans still loved her, and she was going to be in the Women's Royal Rumble. Till one night, where everything changed when Sasha Banks accidentally injured Paige with a botched kick to the back of her neck. The match was stopped, and Paige was looked at by doctors who gave her the diagnosis that she couldn't wrestle anymore, and her career was over. If you watch WWE's Chronicle documentary about her, you can see how much this upset her, as this is all that she'd ever known and really wanted. It was the night after WrestleMania 34 that Paige had announced her retirement from in-ring competition. Her career ended at the age of 25, with the best years ahead of her. This wouldn't be the last time that we would see Paige, as the next night on SmackDown, she announced that she was going to be the new SmackDown General Manager. And for months she would always pop up, and the fans were always receptive and happy to see Paige. But her time as general manager would not be a long one, as Shane McMahon announced that Paige would no longer be SmackDown general manager, as the McMahons would be taking over SmackDown and Raw, thus leaving Paige without a position in the company. And to make it worse, she was only told about this the day before they made the announcement of her leaving on social media. Paige wouldn't be seen on WWE until recently, where she would debut the team of Asuka and Kairi Sane, as she's become the manager of this team, and that is where she's at in her career right now. Paige's career in WWE has been captivating and controversial. It's the story of a young woman who fell in love with the wrestling business after wanting nothing to do with it. She trained hard, honed her skills, and made it to WWE, the most known wrestling company in the world. She made waves, becoming the first ever NXT Women's Champion. She ran NXT, became Divas Champion in her WWE debut, ruled the women's division, and despite so many obstacles that were put in her way, like wellness policy violations, sex tape releases, the ending of her career, she still managed to become a part of the business that she loves so much. Paige's story is one that can inspire anyone, and no matter what, WWE will always be Paige's house.